Okay, Dave, your busts. You already talked about Melvin Gordon, Todd Gurley. What do you want to say? I guess the question is, when would you feel comfortable taking Todd Gurley, who, as I mentioned yesterday, is creeping into the first round in a lot of drafts?
Yeah, I'm team round 3 on Todd Gurley. I don't want to deal with a headache, whether the headache happens early in the year or late in the year. We can all assume that the touches are going to go down. I think the explosiveness could also go down. I don't care that he's not playing in the preseason. That's typical for stud running backs like Gurley. And I'm happy that he worked in the joint practices, but I don't see him delivering to the top 5 if he's got a knee that could cause up problems at any point during the year. So I'm avoiding Todd Gurley on draft day.
Okay. How about Heath and Ben? Just tell me real quick when you'd feel comfortable taking Gurley.
Mid-late second.
I think there's enough guys in the second that I like more that I'm not taking him in the second. So I agree more with Dave.
Okay. Dave, Adam Thielen, 10th wide receiver off the board, 27th overall. A little bit earlier than that, though, on CBS ADP. He's a second-round pick. Adam Thielen you have as a bust. When would you feel comfortable taking him?
I wouldn't feel comfortable taking Adam Thielen until round 3 in PPR, which is pretty close to his ADP, but round 4 in non-PPR. I don't think he's going to have 9 games with over 100 yards. I don't think he's going to score 9 touchdowns. We know that the Vikings want to run the football a little bit more, and we know that the Vikings want to diversify the passing game a little bit more, get Kyle Rudolph and Irv Smith just a little bit more involved. They have also uncovered a slot receiver, Chad Beebe. This isn't the main reason to get away from Adam Thielen, but if Thielen's not in the slot where he really made his money last year, it's going to take away from him. He had a better catch rate in the slot each of the last 2 years than he did on the outside. Great numbers in the slot the last 2 years compared to the outside. I just think he's being overdrafted. I don't think he's got a shot at 1,200 yards or even 7 touchdowns.
Okay. And then finally, Vance McDonald, who is tight end 10 in Fantasy Pros in terms of ADP. He's going at the end of round 8, and you have Vance McDonald, Steelers tight end, as a bust.
He has 70 yards in 4 games in his career. He's caught 5 or more passes 4 times in his career. I understand that there are a lot of targets on the table in Pittsburgh. I don't think he's going to get enough of them to be a reliable fantasy starter week in and week out. Heath Miller only got the job done as a reliable fantasy starter like 3 times in his entire career. I think James Washington and Dante Moncrief are going to pick up a lot more of the slack from Antonio Brown's departure than Vance McDonald.
McDonald was the 12th best tight end in non-PPR, 10th best in PPR.
Do you know how many fantasy points he averaged?
I'm just saying, like, that wasn't that impressive.
No, 4.9 in non-PPR and 8.3 in PPR.
Oh, right, but that's what I'm saying, Dave. It's like he averaged 4.9 fantasy points in non-PPR. What was it in PPR?
8.3.
8.3. So I'm saying to be a top 12 tight end, you don't need to be that good. So
right, but I want my tight end to be good.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you won't. There won't be 10 good tight ends. There just won't be.
That's why he's not ranked in my top 10.
Heath Miller didn't run a 4.7 at 267. Like, part of the reason to like Vance McDonald is he's a big dude. He can run real fast. He's never really had the opportunity share that we want, like Dave mentioned. But we saw it in the playoffs 2 years ago. He had a 16 target game and blew up. He's had his moments. If you want to look for like a George Kittle type for this year, that a guy that just has really good efficiency, yards after the catch, I think Vance is your best bet. But he is 29. He's a lot older than you think. And Dave has a point. Like, if he hasn't done it to this point in his career, kind of tough.
73 games, right. 12 touchdowns, and he's missed 23 games.
All right, so let's get Heath's busts here. Heath, if you're good, you do this in like 5 minutes, you can stick around for regulators. So there's your incentive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, Russell Wilson. I don't have to say too much more about Russell Wilson. We saw the upside last year, which was like a low-end starting quarterback, a mid-range low-end starting quarterback, depending on what format you play in. It's not hard to find the downside. He probably threw 10 to 12 more touchdowns last year than you should expect with the pass volume. Let's assume the volume comes up just a little bit. I don't think he's going to throw 500 passes. He's going to be below 4,000 yards. I don't really think it's very likely that he gets over 27 or 28 touchdowns on the high end. He did not run as much last year as he had in the past. Russell Wilson is not likely to be a starting quarterback in fantasy this year unless he plays 6 games and like 3 or 4 guys get hurt.
Another thing I want to point out about Russell Wilson is that, yeah, he didn't run that much last year, but he also is not a guy that runs a lot inside the 5-yard line. You know, you could get more yards from him, but he's not a big rushing touchdown guy because he doesn't get like his rushing touchdowns.
Yeah, he scored 5 in the last 4 years.
Yeah, he's had a 4-touchdown season, a 6-touchdown season, and a 3-touchdown season. He's also had a 1, a 1, a 1, and a 0. So he just doesn't get that many carries inside the 10. Like 3 or 4 carries inside the 10-yard line each of his last 4 seasons for Russell Wilson. You have Josh Jacobs as a bust. What up with that?
This is mostly a PPR call. I'm a little lower on him than ADP and non-PPR, but I could live with him as running back 19. It might happen. My expectation is still that one of the most efficient pass-catching backs in the NFL is still going to get a bunch of targets this year, and that's Jalen Richard. I expect Jacobs to be on the field for early downs. He'll still catch maybe 30 passes this year, but I do think it's going to be difficult on a team that, yes, the Raiders' offense looked great last night against the Arizona Sun Devils, but I don't expect the Raiders' offense to be very good. Their defense is going to be awful, and their line's very beat up. It's not going to be good at the start of the year either.
Now, was that a funny joke, or should we point out that Arizona State is the Sun Devils?
I think that makes it funnier.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. I don't know. Like, does Josh Jacobs really need more than 30 catches to be better than RB19? You know?
That depends. Does he score? How many touchdowns does he score? How many touchdowns do the Raiders score? What's his yards per carry average behind that line?
There's no reason why they can't have a good offense. Why can't they have a good offense? They have good players now.
They have a bad quarterback, and I think a bad offensive line.
They don't. They have neither of those.
RB19 is still too high as well for you to be saying that all he has to do is beat RB19 to not be a bad pick. You need a guy at RB in the top 20 running backs. If you're taking a guy, he has to have top 10 upside or top 5 upside.
He 100% has top 10 upside. He has top 5 upside.
And again, I'm fine with it in non-PPR. He does not have top 5. Derek Carr is a bad quarterback first. If we're saying that there are 15, I mean, how many good quarterbacks are there?
There's over 20.
He's a below average quarterback. Is that better?
Well, actually, yeah, fine.
He has
but
to be
he's still good enough. Yeah. Well, but he's a better quarterback than Kyler Murray. He's a better quarterback than Lamar Jackson. He's a better quarterback than Josh Allen.
I don't know that he is a better quarterback than Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson.
You also have Antonio Brown as a bust. Antonio Brown.
I don't like the Raiders, Adam, and I don't like Derek Carr, and I don't like their offense. And listen, it sounds like Antonio Brown's head is right back in the right place. It's not quite back in the right helmet yet, but it will be. I think his feet are probably going to be okay, but there's still a lot of concerns that I had about Brown before any of this drama. It's the Raiders offense. It's Derek Carr. It's how is Antonio Brown behaving when they are 7 games into the season and they're 2-5, and there's a game where he only gets 5 targets.
Understood. To defend Derek Carr, he has twice given us 2 top 24 wide receivers. Once he gave us 2 top 20 wide receivers. That was Amari Cooper, and Michael Crabtree back to back.
And
I don't think he's as bad.
Right, I think he could give us 2 top 24 wide receivers again this year as well. Antonio Brown could be like 17 or 18. Tyrell Williams is 24th. We're good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Brown's, I don't think the split. I think there's a bigger split between Brown and Tyrell than there was between Cooper and Crabtree at the time. But fair enough. I just want to point out, he's not that bad. He can Derek Carr, but I'm not disagreeing with your bus call.
He can run a short area West Coast offense perfectly.
Would you take Antonio Brown or Brandon Cooks?
I've got Cooks a spot ahead of Brown as of now.
I would definitely take Cooks in non-PPR. I might have Brown 1 spot higher in PPR.
Ben, how about you?
I'd probably take Cooks. I'm really low on Brown. I just want to note on Derek Carr, last year, Jalen Richard led the team in receptions. I think it was 8 of the 16 games. Like, when they get behind, he doesn't press the ball on the field. He just checks down a ton. Or he threw to Jared Cook a lot. But he has – I don't know that I would agree with Adam's kind of defense that he's a decent quarterback. I think he's pretty bad. Like, I think he has a hard time
Right.
getting the ball to his wide receivers, and that's what you need to do to be a good quarterback.
Well, let's see. I mean, let's see. Like I said, when he had Cooper and Crabtree, he got them the ball. Let's see what he does with Antonio Brown. I think they have a better offensive line now. They've invested.
Yeah.
Invested in it.
Look, you can't
better
fight
line.
what he
They
did
had a good
last
one.
year. Last year, he had
What's
a
that?
career high in completion percentage and yards, but he did it with a lot of that dink and dunk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
All right,
is
and
what he
then
can.
the last one for Heath is Ebron, who is definitely moving down in ADP. He's 66th on CBS. He's lower than that on Fantasy Pros, and he's basically like in our drafts, nobody wants him except for me.
And
He'd
Jack.
be terrible without luck. I take Eric Ebron in like the 10th round now. I'm actually okay with that, but I don't know. You don't like Antonio Brown.
I think 10th round is a good place to take Eric Ebron, and he might score some touchdowns. There's a lot of things to be scared of. I'd feel better about him if Jack Doyle was unable to get healthy and Andrew Luck did get healthy, but that's a lot of ifs.
His primary role was red zone weapon, and they've added Devin Funchess to be another red zone weapon. Jack Doyle is back, another red zone weapon. And then whenever the heck Paris Campbell gets healthy, he'll be in the mix too. The touchdowns are going to come down. He had 3 games last year with 70-plus yards. He opens the season against the Chargers and the Titans. Both of those teams have safeties that can cover him. He's not someone I want to take.
Okay, makes sense.